Hey, what's up, guys? It's Apollo Gia here, back with the next part of What If Naruto Had Asura's Memories. And before continuing this part, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And without further ado, let's continue with our story. Previously, the invasion has begun. Naruto sent a pulse of chakra through his body, breaking free of the feather illusion jutsu. He got up and noticed that most of the Jonins were unaffected. Kai! Yelled Naruto, unleashing a wave of Asura's chakra which rolled over most of his Genin friends. Just then, Kakashi came by his side. Listen up, all of you. We're under attack by Suna and Oto, so I need those who still haven't recovered fully from the preliminaries to help evacuate the civilians, while those who are medically fit are to defend the village from the attackers. As for Naruto, I want you to help Sayuri lure Gaara away from the village to minimize the damage and together take him down. Go! Hi, Kakashi sensei. The Genins chores before splitting up to do their respective jobs. Naruto leapt down from the stands to the arena floor, where the Tanuki was facing Sayuri. The Uchiha jumped back and met up with the Uzumaki, who filled her in on the plan. She nodded, and both ran put of Konoha, taking a dilapidated route which would not cause too much collateral damage when Shikaku was chasing them. As expected, the one-tail followed in hot pursuit, but due to its size, was a lot slower. This gave the two a minute to strategize how to take him down. To take down a beast, none other than a tail beast down, was rather difficult without Fuinjutsu. Naruto had one in mind, but it would take time to prepare, which they might not have. Sayuri thus offered to stall the Biju with her Rinnegan. Naruto also planned to summon the Chief Toad, as it would be much better to have a huge summon on their side as well. Mindscape, Kurama, Naruto called. The fox replied. Is there a way you can bridge my consciousness with Gaara's? I wish to speak to Shikaku and persuade him. The Kyuubi was taken aback, unsure what to make of this. Never was there a time in history where humans actually attempted to understand the Bijus. Instead, they always opted to fight them head-on and seal them off. To think that Naruto actually cared about how the tail beast felt. His respect for his Jinchuriki just gone up. I could link with my brother through the Biju Shinso Shinrai, tail beast psyche plane. If only we were fully linked as Biju and Jinchuriki. That's not the case, as you can see. Lament Kurama, who trapped on the metal gate, separating him and his Jinchuriki. You should ask Jiraiya. He has the key. Damn it, Naruto cursed, making a mental note to ask his Sanin and mentor the next time he met. I have a solution, Asura offered, as we may have neglected to inform you, Kurama-kun. Here has forced to attack Konoha by an Uchiha, who's wielded the Mangekyo Sharingan, the eye of my brother. Naruto drew the dot. So you mean the Mangekyo is capable of controlling tail beasts? You want me to ask Sayuri? The Otsutsuki nodded. Further than that, the wielder of the Mangekyo is capable of entering a Jinchuriki mindscape and interact within his as well as his tail beast consciousness. Alright then, thanks. Reality. Before the Uzumaki had a chance to explain that to Sayuri, Shikaku lumbered into the forest, with Gaara sticking out of his head. The lower half of the Jinchuriki's body was within the sand that made up the Biju's forehead, while the top half was exposed. Sayuri! The Uchiha took off running towards the Tanuki, intercepting any attacks that got in her path with her Sharingan. Gaara roared and amassed a huge amount of Futon chakra. Futon, Mugen Sanji, Tapota. The Tanuki's mouth snapped open and released a powerful squall with millions of sand particles within. It tore through the forest and leveled numerous trees in the area. Sayuri formed the Horse Hand Seal. Fire style, majestic destroyer flame. Using her natural affinity for fire as an Uchiha, she generated a vulnerable amount of Katon chakra, which spanned a wide area, overcoming the winds in the elemental advantage. Meanwhile, Naruto was furiously scribbling on chakra paper to build a better seal for Shikaku. If all else failed and he could not convince the tail beast, he would have to resort to that. Sand continued to fly crazily at Sayuri, who avoided most of it. Naruto, I could use your summon's help here, she yelled as she flipped out of the way of another assault. On it, replied Naruto as he swept his thumb across his canine, causing it to bleed. His hand danced through 5 hand seals. Meanwhile, the Tanuki had lunged at her as nimbly as a raccoon dog the size of a house could. The Uchiha's eyes widened as she quickly thrust out her hand, throwing as much chakra as she could into her next jutsu, Shinra Tensei. A huge invisible force radiated from her and pushed back everything around her. Since Shikaku was the nearest, he took the brunt of the impact. It took the Uchiha a lot of chakra to produce the force necessary to topple the Biju. She panted hard from the chakra expenditure as Shikaku crashed and landed on his back. The Tomos on her Rinnegan faded away, indicating the loss of its full power, much of her Sharingan. She realized she was unable to manifest her Mangekyo at this time as well. Getsu Yatai. Summoning, bringing down the house jutsu. Well, you could say that. Anyway, Naruto called. A huge cloud of smoke appeared in the sky, directing above the half-transformed Shikaku. From it, the Chief Toad plunged into a 100-meter dive and slammed his bottom on the Biju's belly, squashing it further. Thanks, Gamabunta, said Naruto. The boss Toad leapt away to Naruto's side upon noticing who he was sitting on. What sort of trouble did you get yourself into this time? Why are you fighting Shikaku? The Uzumaki explained as briefly as he could. Sayuri, the seal is ready, he called out. She nodded in acknowledgement. You need to use your Mangekyo to infiltrate his mind. I wish to contact Shikaku. The Uchiha was puzzled, but did not question him. My Mangekyo won't be able to ready for quite a while. I need to help to keep him occupied till then. I have your back, Bunta affirmed. Thanks, said Sayuri as she noticed her opponent getting up. Gaara was furious. I won't let you diminish my existence, mother. Yes, I shall listen to you. Tanuki Nair no Jutsu, Palm Posum Jutsu. Once the last word left his mouth, his eyes closed, and he slumped forward, asleep for the first time in many years. Naruto paled at the onset. Mitsuki Kurama. Didn't you say that Shikaku forces his Jinchuriki to stay awake 24/7? What happens if the Jinchuriki falls asleep? Naruto asked. The force replied gravely. Shikaku will be able to take full control of his Jinchuriki and possess him. He must wake Gaara to reduce Shikaku's hold over his Jinchuriki. The longer he sleeps, the more power my brother will get. Reality. Naruto stood up as orange chakra enveloped him. 4 black orbs levitating behind his back. He slipped the chakra paper into his pocket and stored next to Sayuri, who was watching the Biju's action. The One-Tails rises, turns from a back shade of yellow to bright yellow, his pupil resembling the arrangement of exilium and phyllium tissues in a dextrolinous root, a 4-sided star in the center with dots surrounding it, on one in between each edge of the star. I'm finally free, roared Shikaku, cackling madly with laughter. Let's get this started. Wind style, air bullet. He slammed his hands into his own stomach, forcing a huge ball of compressed to fire out of the mouth towards the tree. Chief Toad, get ready for an opening, Naruto warned as he sent his Gurodama in front. They formed a huge shield, which nullified the attack upon contact. At his will, they parted to form a hole. It was through this hole that the Chief Toad launched the counterattack. Water style, gunshot. A copious amount of water rocketed through the mouth and opening and flew at Shikaku. The Biju retaliated with another air bullet, causing both to meet in the middle and collide, forming a small drizzle over the forest. Meanwhile, the Uchiha and the Uzumaki took the opportunity and jumped atop Gamabunta's head. As soon as Naruto retracted the truth-seeking balls, the One-Tail created another air bullet and sent it off in their direction. The boss Toad leapt up, dodging the attack and fired off the same Suton Jutsu. Tabodama, Renkudan. Tabodama, Renkudan. This went on for some time. Shikaku finally said, You really do amuse me, Uzumaki Naruto. To wield the powers of my brothers and you, Uchiha Sayuri, the eyes of my father. Why do you have them? Sayuri whispered as she felt a regenerating sensation returning to her left eye, which manifested 6 tomos. My Mangekyo is ready. The 3 tomos in her right eye spun and wrapped to form 3 red ellipses with a black background. Naruto requested, Chief, get us close to Sandspear's eyes level. You sure? Kamamuta asked, raising an eyebrow. Yup. We need to get close for this to work. The toad started charging at the humongous tanuki. Shikaku blasted an air bullet while Gamabunta flipped over. Needless to say, Sayuri and Naruto had hold on tight with their chakra. As he was about to land, the toad pulled his sword out and brought it down in a huge swing at the Biju's right arm, surveying it. Shikaku howled in pain while he was distracted and unprepared. Gamabunta bludgeoned on him on the head with the pommel of his sword and brought him face down onto the grass. Hurry, the chief toad urged. The Uchiha and the Uzumaki complied, leaping off his head and landing right in front of Shikaku's face. Naruto jumped onto his forehead and sucker punched Gaara, causing the Jinchuriki's eyes to fly right open in horror at the being awakened. Naruto backflipped and Sayuri landed next to him, who offered him a hand to hold as contact as required for him to enter the Jinchuriki's consciousness as well. The Uchiha started to stare into Gaara's eyes, concentrating on sending chakra to target his cerebral nervous system through visual contacts. There was a noticeable change in these eyes. Surprisingly, it changed into the pattern of the Rinnegan instead of the Sharingan, so her Rinnegan was actually capable of applying powerful genjutsu through eye contact as well. She took a mental note of that as she felt the world around her slip away. Gaara's mind scraped. Time freeze. The two appeared into a dark void with knee-high water. An unknown light source lit an small portion of the void where Shikaku was standing, fang-like processes surrounding him in the water, of which some had chains tethered to the Biju. Gaara was standing in front of the tail beast in a wary manner. What are you doing here? You cannot kill mother. Naruto squeezed Sayuri's hand before letting go, a signal meaning I got this. He strode up to the Ichibi Jinchuriki and spoke, Don't worry, Gaara. I'm not here to kill your mother. I'm here to listen to what she has to say. Naruto gave Shikaku a pointed look. Why do you have done this? Why did you tell Gaara you were his mother? The tail beast's voice suddenly became more masculine, shocking the redhead. I hate humans. I hate their existence, what they have scorned and taunted me for generations. Kasan? Gaara questioned fearfully in a small voice. I'm not your mother, you foolish Jinchuriki. I am Shikaku, mighty one-tailed beast of the sand. Naruto sighed, sadly, as he recalled the mistreatment he had faced when he was younger. Gaara must have went through the same. Humans and beasts. There is no need for a distinction. No need for a distinction, you say? Shikaku repeated, interested beat. It was eerily similar to what his first Jinchuriki, Bunpuku, had to say. For too long, the Bijus have been mistreated by humans, taken against their will as a bargaining chip for power amongst the villages. Their Jinchurikis too have been mistreated by their own villagers, orchestrized like a piece of trash no one deserves to see. I know because I've been through it, said Naruto. There is no distinction between human and beast because now, who is the real beast? The Bijus deserve way better than us humans have done to them. You shouldn't be sealed away and forced to live through the lives of a jailer, only to be taken and sealed again into a new jailer once the previous one dies. He spoke with such sadness in his eyes that it radiated through the tail beast. There were actually a human who cared about how tail beast felt. That is why I seek to liberate the Bijus, to give you all the respect you deserve, not as a source of power, but as a granters to the peace that the Rokudana Sanin had envisioned when he split all of you up, to stop the Jubi from reforming and bringing an end to the end of the world and earth again. Naruto declared with confidence, so please stop traumatizing Gaara. Accept him as your Jinchuriki, the one person who will understand you most. You will be repaid as he will give you the respect you deserve. Shikaku was contemplating what he said, reminded of the word Bunpuku had imparted on to him, that somebody someday would appear in the world to teach him about the heart and acceptance. The blonde turned to Gara, who was scared of him as he had just revolutionized his whole understanding of love and acceptance. Gara, I know your pain as a fellow Jinchuriki, always being isolated and treated like a para by your own villagers. I was charged for overpriced items, kicked out of many stores, and ignored by my own peers. But I learned to realize that to love is the key to finding acceptance and avoiding the darkness. As long as you have people who are precious to you, like your family or your friends, your existence will never be diminished as you will live on forever in their hearts, even if you are dead. You don't have to kill others to prove your existence. You just have to learn to protect your precious people, the people who love you most, and in return you'll gain strength like no other. Your siblings Temari and Kankro love you though they are afraid to say it. In them you find acceptance. Gara was stunned. His siblings loved him? Shikaku spoke up suddenly in a solemn voice. I can't believe I'm saying this to a human, but thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. I have learned much from you. Naruto, there is no need. I was just speaking my mind, and sincerely hope that one day the humans and the beaches will treat each other as equal. Shikaku smiled. You remind me of someone I know, a brother who once treated me the same way as you. Asura Otsutsuki, right? I'm his reincarnate. Naruto explained. No wonder. I wish you all the luck in your endeavors. Before you go, I have a gift for you. Shikaku brought his sand claw out and clenched it into a fist, offering it to Naruto. The blonde was puzzled but bumped his fist with the biju anyway. Instantaneously memory flooded into his head. As soon as he touched it, as well as a hell lot of chakra, he recognized it as Shikaku's. Naruto saw and experienced the pain, loss, and suffering the One Tail had gone through in their lifetime. From the death of Rikudo Sanin to death of his Suna priest, named Bunpuku, his first Jinchuriki. Naruto brought his fist back up to the side. I see. You have certainly went through a lot. Thank you for sharing this with me, Shikaku-san. The Biju nodded. No problem. When you have fully linked with Kurama, use the Shinso Shinrai to contact me. Alright, sorry for introducing and intruding, Gara. We shall leave. Naruto turned to Sayuri, who had a poker face on but was inwardly impressed. He had managed to change the mindset of a Biju, who was hell-bent on destroying humans, and somehow turned around Gara's views as well. Jane, the two disappeared from the mindscape of Gara. Reality time continued. Naruto blinked, readjusting to the bright daylight. Kawabunta asked, how did it go? The Uchiha replied, somehow, Naruto managed to convince Shikaku and Gara to turn over a new leaf. As she said so, the body of Shikaku crumbled into sand, falling apart. The Chief Lord was noticeably impressed. You are truly one of the kind, Naruto Uzumaki. With that, he grabbed his sword and dispelled in a burst of smoke. Something Naruto said earlier had caught Sayuri's attention. By the way, what did you mean earlier when you said to stop the Jubi from reforming and bringing an L to the earth again? Uzumaki replied shortly, I'll tell you on the way. Right now we need to focus on assisting the defense of the village. He then started running back to the village, with Sayuri close behind. He began explaining the great prophecy Jiraiya had told him about, as well as the return of Kaguya, leaving out the part where Gamamaru had thought him to be one of the child of prophecy. However, Sayuri had caught on, already suspecting it because she knew he was a student of Jiraiya. You're one of them, aren't you? Questioned the Uchiha. Naruto swallowed his saliva and pondered on his question. Mindscape. She knows that she's in Transmagran, doesn't she? Naruto said, to no one in particular. I'm positive. Asura replied. She wouldn't have gotten the Rinnegan, much less with the 6 Tomos otherwise. She possesses the 6 paths in power. It's also highly likely that she knows you are my reincarnate. Just come clean with her. Remember what I said about trying to free her from the Uchiha clan's curse of hatred. Reality. Yes, I am one of them. You are the other child, Sayuri-chan. Replied Naruto. The Uchiha was silent. This was a reaction that Uzumaki had expected. Whenever she received news of something big, she would keep silent to think about it instead of overreacting like most people would. Still, it was eerie to see her quiet for the next 100 meters or so of the tree. I am the transmagnet of Indra, Sayuri announced suddenly. She then looked at Naruto expectantly. Naruto hesitated but replied, as you probably know, I'm the transmagnet of Asura, or our past selves have had interesting interactions. I'm aware. Both were then awkwardly silent, as they did not know what to say. Thankfully, they had reached the walls of the village, which saved them from further awkward silence. Naruto bounded over the wall and entered the village. As soon as he landed, Enotonin attacked him from behind. The enemy struck with a backstab, only to find out blocked by a black orb shield formed by the Guru Damas. Naruto Uzumaki fashioned a shakuju out of his orb and slammed the business end into his assailant stomach, throwing him away like a rag doll. It was just the man's misfortune that Naruto was a censor. Sayuri landed next to him and both continued to journey on into the heart of the village where the invasion was being carried out. The Uchiha took out glance with her eyes and remarked, "We're gradually pushing the enemy back." Down the block at the alley on the left, there are 6 enemies. Naruto tapped his staff onto the floor lightly, silently and precisely. The rings attached to his staff disengaged and flew into the alley ahead of them, recombining and emitting a bright light of flash. Seconds later, they returned to their owners, Shakucho. "You sure about that, Sayuri-chan? You might want to check again." 6 unconscious enemies, the Uchiha repeated, rolling her eyes. And any enemies they continued met a quick end, either killed by Sayuri or knocked unconscious by Naruto. "You don't have to kill them, you know," Naruto commented after her latest kill. Sayuri stated simply, "Dead men can't fight you again." Secretly, the Uzumaki sent minute fragment of his Kurudama to patch them up with Yoton chakra. Though they remained unconscious, at least they weren't dead. Most of the time, the Uchiha had left them for dead, causing them to bleed to death rather than decapitating them completely. Of course, those who fell under the latter category were unable to be saved by the Uzumaki. Sayuri continued to trudge ahead, mercilessly cutting down opponents with her Chikoto. She then looked up, noticing a huge fluctuation of chakra at the stadium from earlier. The chakra presents they were massive. She narrowed her eyes and took a closer look with her Rinnegan. The Uchiha gasped, "Naruto? The Sandam is fighting against Orochimaru and 2 others, and I'm not wrong." Her gaze shifted to the Uzumaki rock, which confirmed her fears. The 2 are Shoda and Nanda and Hokage. Naruto was shocked. Why would the third be facing off the 2 people who are long dead and his predecessors? He bet his head that it has something to do with the Orochimaru, the snake Sanin. "Come on, we need to save Sarutobi," Naruto said, who vaulted up onto the nearest rooftop and began sprinting in the direction of the stadium. Sayuri was not far behind. It didn't take the Rinnegan to notice that there was a giant 4-sided purple barrier present at each corner. Enotonin was within the barrier, maintaining it. Upon closer inspection, there was a second barrier in front of them. Essentially, the setup was to prevent people, both inside and outside, from getting in or out. Simultaneously, it protected the 4 from getting attacked inside the barrier. Though it did not have a roof, the wall of the barrier was very high, towards towering the sky. It would be impossible for them to enter from above. As Naruto neared the stadium, he asked Sayuri, "How are we going to get in?" Sayuri answered, "I have an idea. My Mangekyo has a space-time ninjutsu, Kamui, which allows me to teleport myself and object in and out. I will be able to slip us through my dimension and get us in within the barrier. This works because the barrier is only erected within the current dimension and does not bridge into mine as well." Naruto grabbed her hand, causing her to blush slightly. "Let's do it." Kamui, her right eye morphed into Mangekyo. The 2 spiraling void centered around her eyes drew Naruto and herself inward, absorbing both into Kamui's dimension. She ejected him out of her dimension once they arrived within the barrier. The balloon lunged at the 2 Hokages at high speeds, holding up the Shadow Clone seal, Kagebunshin no Jutsu. The 2 copies of him burst into existence and were launched at Hashirama and Tobirama, engaging them in a combat while the original flew at Orochimaru with a punch augmented by Asura's chakra. Naruto savored the moment as his fist slammed into the face of the snake Sanin who had brought Sayori so much pain. The satisfying crunch as Orochimaru's facial structure bones snapped was a melody to his ear. The force generated by his punch was enough to send the Nukenin flying across the rooftop before he eventually crashed onto the roof tiles. The blonde returned to the Sandam's side. Gigi, what's going on? The third spoke. The two former Hokages have been revived by the Edo Tensei, which has invented, ironically, by the Nandam himself. It involves calling the soul of the dead from the pure land and placing them in human sacrifices for their use as vessels. Dust and earth covers the vessels, forming the likeness of the dead person. Whatever body damages they take simply degenerates from dust. From what I've seen, they only been revived at around 10% of their original power. Orochimaru has suppressed their will and talismans in order to force them to fight for him. 10% of their original power. Naruto looked at the rooftop in disbelief. The place was hardly recognizable as a rooftop. The entire side was a scene of devastation, covered with the extensive forest of trees from the Shodai's legendary Mokuton, and flooded with the water by the Nandam, who was hailed as the powerful Suiton user in the shinobi history. Hiruzen was no pushover either, having conjured towering earthen walls to his defense. Souls, you say? Sayori repeated with a smirk, an idea forming in her head. Do you have an plan, Sayori-chan? Asked the Sarutobi. The Uchiha nodded, pointing to her glowing eye. Naruto, catch your clones to distract our restrained Hokages. She turned towards Tobirama, who was busy fighting a clone. Of course, she knew that he was a censor from her studies at the Konoha Archive Library, so she knew it was pointless to ambush him, at least at a level he could detect with his 10% power. Rinbo, she murmured. Almost immediately, her shadow clone grabbed hold on Tobirama, who found himself unable to move. Wasting no time, Sayori reached for his body and intoned Ningendo Kyokon no Jutsu. Tobirama's soul materialized, and with a hard yank, she disconnected and released it from its body. The soul floated away, returning to the land of Pure, while the ashen materialized, surrounding the reanimated body left on it. Only the sacrificial corpse of Tsuchikin reanimated in his place, collapsing on the floor. With Naruto earlier, the original approached Hashirama, who had just obliterated his clones with a fist full of chakra. Naruto waved in his hand at the Shodai Hokage, sending black rods fashioned out of the Gurudama at him. 7 of those red rods pierced the Mokuton user and immobilized him, as Hashirama was made from the Edo Tensei, a jutsu which the Gurudama nullified. Naruto channeled chakra into his right hand and reached into Hashirama's head, grasping a kunai with a talisman from within. Once his fingers closed around the Bill's suppressing seal tag, Naruto pulled it off of the reanimated Shodai Hokage and discarded it on the floor. Hashirama's glare turned from black to a lighter gray, indicating the return of his will and personality. The reanimated body widened in realization as he recognized the chakra before him, reanimated of his own. You're me in this life, aren't you? Hi, Shodai-sama. Naruto confirmed. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, Asura's next transmigrant from you, Lord Hashirama. The first hands shot up and clutched Naruto's forearms. Uzumaki, huh? Listen up. I need you to end the conflict with Indra's transmigrant in this life. Please promise me you'll do your best. Our conflict will continue to grip the world. Naruto nodded. Don't worry, I will, Shodai-sama. Mindscape. I just remembered something I wanted to tell you, said Asura. Those who possess my chakra and have mastered Senjutsu are capable of using Mokuton naturally, and so far only Hashirama and I have been known to possess Mokuton in shinobi history. Since you have just mastered Senjutsu, I figured it would be a good idea and time to tell you. And when better than in the presence of the most famed user of the wood style user, huh? I'll teach you some of the jutsus later once you're done with this. Naruto didn't really know how to react. He was overjoyed that there was soon be a new addition to his ninjutsu arsenal. Reality, Naruto declared. Goodbye, Shodai-sama. I'll give you my word. I will end this conflict between Asura and Indra. The first nodded as best as he could in the paralyzed state, before Naruto willed the rods to expand and completely disintegrate the reanimated body. The Uzumaki stood up just as Sayori finished her business with the Inin Daime. Both looked at each other before turning to face the snake Sanin, who was slowly getting up from the Uzumaki's punch. His face was getting unrecognizable as the Uzumaki had significantly rearranged his facial features. To think that the Orochimaru was still standing, he was definitely a treacherous enemy. Suddenly he gripped his disfigured face, and it tore off, as one would do to a sheet of paper. Under it was a new face, feminine but still retaining the striking features of Orochimaru, like this sharp, still yellow eyes and his malicious grin. The Sandaime was bewildered as the Sanin laughed evilly, licking his lips with his long, forked tongue. Orochimaru, what have you done? You're no longer a human, Ruzan spat, disgusted. No, I am certainly not a human. I am ascended, became an immortal. The Team 7 duo exchanged glances and slightly agreed on a plan. Without a word, they took off towards the snake Sanin at high speed. Saori reached for a pouch as she neared Orochimaru, sliding a finger through the ring of a kunai. She whipped it in front of her and threw it at the man in the straight line. With a sharp whistling sound, it zipped towards Orochimaru. The snake Sanin narrowly avoided it by tilting his head to the right, but as soon as it flew past him, Saori's Rinnegan locked onto it. Naruto flashed through the hand seals for a Fujitsu as Saori intoned, Amento Jikara. Instantaneously, she swapped places with the airborne kunai, shocking Orochimaru. The Uzumaki grabbed the kunai from where Saori was just an instant ago and drove it into the snake Sanin's stomach, just as the Uchiha brought him to his knees. With a quick takedown from the back, Naruto proceeded to grip Orochimaru's hand and glared into his eyes as Jutsu Shiki appeared, running from his forearms, sealing hot pain ripped its way through his arms as his chakra network was destroyed, eliciting a scream from Orochimaru before they went completely numb and fell to his side and useless. The duo jumped away just before the snake Sanin lashed out in anger, with a snake shooting out from his mouth. It withdrew as Orochimaru wailed uncharacteristically, "My arms! What have you done to my arms?" Once they returned to Sandam's side, Naruto replied, "I have completely destroyed the chakra network in your arms. You will never be able to mold chakra to hurt anyone ever again." Ruzan watched their seamless teamwork in fascination, as well as the Funjutsu that did a number on the wayward student. Without even exchanging words, the two had managed to execute a takedown, and the sealing flawlessly teamwork of his kind was impressive. In fact, even more seasoned duos wouldn't be able to execute a plan of this level of detail without some of communication. He was speechless. The four Oto shinobi maintaining the barrier dropped it and quickly went to their leader's side. Orochimaru warned, "Beware, Uzumaki Naruto. This will not be the last you see of me. I will seek my revenge." At that, one of the Otonin threw down a smoke bomb. When the smoke cleared, they had disappeared. After confirming the absence of the enemy, Naruto turned worriedly over to Sandam. "Gigi, are you alright?" asked Naruto. The Hokage waved a hand in fatigue as he responded, "I'm fine, just a little tired. I need a little nap and a retirement after this." The Uzumaki chuckled softly as he waved his hand over his grandfather figure, sending Yoton chakra into his system. Anbu agents arrived and quickly took the aged Hokage to the hospital for proper treatment. In the distance, a war horn sounded twice for retreat. The remaining troops from Suna Oto from the village, leading the Konohanin to celebrate. Some part of the village has been destroyed and repair work would take a while. At least 2 works or so, thankfully. Most of Konoha had been preserved, and for the majority, life resumed as per normal. It was Thursday, the 17th of July. It has been 5 days since the invasion, and Naruto had been working on his new discovered Mokitan under the instruction of Asura. It has been explained to him that the reason for needing to be a sage would unlocking the wood style was because he would then be able to utilize natural energy to transform his chakra to become life source from which trees could grow. Although growing trees as a power sounded pathetic, Naruto had witnessed the power of Mokitan firsthand on the rooftop that day. It was without a doubt destructive. Once other development included the discovery of Suna's missing Kazekage laying dead in a desert dune, his face missing as it had been stolen by Orochimaru for impersonation. Apparently, the invasion had been suggested by the Snake Sanin, and because Suna leader disagreed, Orochimaru had killed him and took his place to give the people of Suna the impression that he supported the invasion. Thus, both Suna and Otonin participated in the invasion, or the Konoha Crush as it termed. As Sunagaku realized that it had been tricked into taking part in the Konoha's crush, it surrendered unconditionally to the Leaf, which accepted it and continued to leave Sen's alliance. While the Hokage was hospitalized, the council was making decisions on his behalf. The third had caught wind of it and summoned Jiraiya and Naruto to his ward. Sarutobi, what are you doing? And how are you doing? Greeted Naruto as he entered the ward and placed a flower in the vase on the nightstand next to the bed. Jiraiya smacked him lightly on the back of the head. Don't be rude, Naruto. The Uzumaki rubbed his head in mock pain. Hiruzen smiled as he sat up. It's okay, Jiraiya. I'm doing fine. Naruto-kun, but the village is not. He proceeded to form hand seals and created a sound barrier to keep the conversation he was about to have private. Jiraiya, I've heard that council is functioning collectively on my behalf, and knowing Danzo, the elders are probably steering decision in their favor. The civilians in the council are probably profiting as well by using the damages as an excuse to channel the village funds and monetary resources to themselves exclusively. As I'm sure you know by now, I want to step down and have successor as soon as possible. I want you to take the job, Jiraiya. Seto Sage shook his head. I won't. I have too many faults that make me unworthy of such a post. I also busy with my spy network and authoring books for people like you. However, I do have someone else in mind. The third raised an eyebrow. And who would it be? Tsunade Hime. Who else? Jiraiya teased. Ah, I see. Retrieving her would be a difficult task, though. Jiraiya smirked. Sarutobi-sensei, you forgot that I have run the largest spy network in the all elemental nations. Naruto and I will locate her and bring her back by the next week. As for persuading her to return, I'm sure Naruto is able to do that. Given how he convinced the Jinchuriki of Shukaku to stop his rampage, Sarutobi smiled. Oh yes, I called Naruto here for another reason as well. You performed excellent during the Chunin exam, Naruto-kun. Your effort to repel the invader was even more admirable. He was praised. The blonde felt embarrassed at being complimented. It's nothing much, GD. You don't have to blow my work off to more than I actually did. Sayori and the others contributed greatly as well. Hiruzen nodded. Yes, I'm aware. There's no need to be humble, Naruto-kun. You should be proud of what you did. For that, you are hereby unofficially promoted to Chunin. It will be made official by the new Hokage. Needless to say, Naruto was ecstatic. He was now one step closer to the title of Hokage. So are Sayuri and Shikaku. Naruto's face fell almost instantly. If Sayuri was Chunin, that meant that CRA would be placed into her effect as soon as this council found out. Meanwhile, Jiraiya's eyes widened at the implication of Naruto's promotion. Sarutobi-sensei, do you mean? Yes, it's time Naruto knows of his heritage. Naruto's train of thought was disrupted as soon as he heard about the word heritage. Gigi, what do you mean by heritage? Naruto questioned, curiously and curiosity creeping into his voice. Jiraiya gave the Sandem a knowing look before turning to the son of the most outstanding student, Naruto. Jiraiya announced, your mother was the hot-blooded habanero of Konoha, Uzumaki Kushina, and your father was none other than Konoha's Kirai Senko, the Yondam Hokage, Minato Namikaze. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Apollo Chia, and I'm signing